Welcome to Hellbilly, the darker side of Appalachia. Just a friendly reminder not to whistle, sing, or scream into the darkness because you might find yourself surrounded by skinwalkers or someone who might be there to steal your catalytic converter or some copper wire. Either way, it won't be pleasant. Tonight, we are going to talk about the silence around mental health, the stigma on seeking treatment, and what that does to people, specifically in Central Appalachia. Again, I'd like to recognize that this is an overwhelming problem around the world and in the United States, but we are focusing specifically on this area. So, let's get started. Across the season, we've kind of discussed how Appalachia, or at least Central Appalachia, has become very remote and private. People like to keep to themselves. What happens there stays there. What happens in the family stays in the family. Very private, we find solutions there. We don't reach out unless we have to. We don't reach out to outsiders. If outsiders come in, they have to earn their place within the community, so on and so forth. And the same goes for, if not more so, for mental health. And there are a lot of reasons for that. Stigma behind the idea of mental health, because there is this idea of othering, which we'll get to. There's a religious component to it, which we'll get to. And just a sense of that someone might be succumbing to a weakness of character or morality because they can't hack it, I guess. I don't know. And to be fair, the culture of Appalachia has always valued toughness. It's had to. And there's a difference between being strong and being tough. I remember somebody once telling me, if you're going to be stupid, you better be tough. And that stuck with me, because that meant to me, if I'm going to be dumb, I better be tough enough to take the punches that came with being dumb. That's not strong. That just means I better be dumb enough to take what comes with it. So working hard, not complaining, taking care of my own, although that doesn't really mean tough. Not asking for help from people who are outside the boundaries of whatever you decide. Family, whatever. Not letting people see you fall apart. Preying on it, which I don't disagree with entirely. Sleeping on it, whatever that means. And by that, I mean whatever that means to you. I generally think that sleeping on it is not necessarily a bad thing. I usually tell my clients sleep on it because waking up with a clear head can help because it decreases impulsiveness, or shove it down and go to work anyway. That's another way of saying compartmentalization, but in not the good way. So all of those things are not necessarily inherently wrong, per se. But they're not necessarily inherently correct. And therein lies the gray area. So you got to step back for a minute and look at the overall picture. We're looking at an area that has survived significant destruction by coal companies, poverty, floods, medical neglect, political abandonment, drug epidemics, Lord Jesus, decades of outsiders treating mountain people like cartoon characters with chewing tobacco, and no indoor plumbing. Lord God, those outhouses. Real, original America. Take a minute. Picture that. We're all sitting in our outhouses chewing tobacco. Not really. We have plumbing. A lot of people do drugs, but they do it with plumbing. They still chew tobacco, though. They vape now, but they have indoor plumbing, I promise you. Indoor plumbing is totally a thing. Air conditioning is a thing. I mean, at this point, people be wearing Gucci, Prada, no shit, in the trap. Probably dressing better than you. Anyway, I don't know if toughness makes sense here as much as just outright stubbornness. The idea of privacy versus stubbornness, suspicion of outsiders, the idea you're protecting your own or protecting your pride, self-reliance versus pride. But this is where it starts to get janky, hinky. Nonetheless, when toughness, pride specifically, becomes silence, people suffer. When privacy becomes secrecy, abuse survives and people suffer. When self-reliance becomes isolation and pride, People die alone inside their own heads and sometimes inside their own homes or on the streets or in motels or cars or in the mountains. Sometimes they're not even found. And when we don't talk, that becomes a family rule or a cultural rule. Trauma learns how to sit at the table and act like it belongs there. And we get nowhere because we don't talk about that here. But guess what? We talk about that here. We sure as fuck do. Welcome to Hell, Bill. Bill has now found himself patiently waiting inside an online Zoom room for a therapist, his own personal hell. Stigma sounds like a lot of things, and it doesn't always sound like hatred. Sounds like concern, sounds like religion, sounds like gossip, sounds like families, sounds like a lot of things. Could be anything, really. Could be anything that makes you feel like you shouldn't be doing what you are asking for unconscious or conscious permission to do, which is seek help. And by that I mean, if you are reaching out and you're looking for validation to seek help and someone is saying something that makes you feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that, there might be some colors of stigma there. So, for instance, if we're talking about depression, it could be something like, she's just lazy. She just tired all the time. She sleep all the time. She negative. That bitch just negative all the time. She do nothing around the house. All she do is cry. Anxiety is she worry all the time. She ain't trusting in Jesus because she's constantly fearing about something. She's always asking about what if this and this and this and this and this and this happens. She's got a plan for a plan for a plan. She's too dramatic. Addiction becomes, he's just always been wild. That just runs in the family. He's just self-medicating. He's just been wild. He's just like that. Or she. Suicidal thoughts become, they just want attention. That's a big one. They just want attention. They don't really mean it. They won't try it again. Domestic violence becomes, that's just between the family. That's just between the husband and wife. They'll figure it out. We'll just get them to talk it out. They just need to talk it out. They'll work it out. He's sorry. He said he's sorry. It's fine. He promised he won't do it again. Or she promised she won't do it again. Sexual abuse becomes, that's family business. Or, well, she's just exaggerating. That didn't happen. She's lying. He's lying. That's not what really happened. No, not at all. And then when you start to talk about therapy, why would you want to tell a stranger your problems? They can't really tell you what's going on. They don't live there. They don't know you. How could they actually understand what is happening in your life enough to fix things? How can they fix things? They don't know. Can they even fix things? We can't actually fix things. You got to fix things. But we sure as shit can point things out. Why would you want to invite somebody that doesn't understand our family into our situation? That doesn't make sense. You're just inviting in trouble. Next thing you know, we're going to have DCS in our home. That's just a couple of things. But you know what people don't realize is that they continue to gossip in between family members and friends and cousins, uncles, brothers, cousins, sisters, uncles, aunts, friends and friends of friends and families, sister wives, like it's nothing. But they don't actually want to talk to someone who might be capable of helping them turn things around. So it's okay to talk about it in a food city parking lot, but not with someone who might be able to help them understand the dynamic that's going on, recognize it, and then reverse that shit. And you know why? Because doing that is scary. Doing that requires accountability. And accountability for people who have never been held accountable is like punishment. So we're looking at pride, like I mentioned. We're looking at fear, poverty, church culture in certain places, a massive distrust of systems that is generational. We're looking at convenience in regard to how can I access assistance? Who is available to help me? Providers. So access to providers. Will everybody know everything? Am I going to pull up into a public spot and then, Bertha's going to tell Helen, who's going to tell Susie, who's going to tell Betty, and everybody at church is going to know? And all of that, well, that last part specifically transcends HIPAA because seeing somebody's car in a parking lot is not protected health information. I'm going to be honest with you. And that just is what it is. So thank God for remote healthcare, right? because you can do it from the safety of your own home, and nobody's gonna see your car parked anywhere other than your driveway, if you even have a car. That's just being real, though, yo, if you even have a car. I grew up in a very mental health forward family because my mom worked as an office supervisor to a mental health facility. So I was basically surrounded by the idea of mental health being a thing in my house, at least by one parent. Was never really stigmatized by my mom. My dad didn't really like it at first. In his age now, he's come to enjoy it. I think you'd have to ask him. But I do recall growing up around a lot of people who did not see the value in it. And I recall hearing a lot of people who were older than me saying things about not wanting to talk about those things or pushing aside mental health care or even healthcare in general because there was no point in it. They didn't trust. And I think that was the biggest thing that I took away from it was there was just a general lack of trust as I look back on it now. The biggest thing that I can pinpoint was that nobody trusted the providers. And in learning and understanding what I know today, I can almost guarantee you that comes from the generational trauma of all of the bigger corporations coming in and the scripts and all of that mess and saying, you get this and this and this and this and this on this one thing, and everybody getting screwed over, passed down and passed down and passed down because that's what generational trauma is. And while I could be wrong, I don't think that I am. Not entirely. I also believe that it has to do with small towns and confidentiality because everybody knows everybody. I could have an argument with someone in my house in Benhams, and 2 days later, everybody and their mother knows about it. I don't know how, but they do because that's a small town for you. And you can't account for that with HIPAA. There's no sign-in HIPAA forms in a small town. You can't pass a HIPAA form around from house to house. It's just that shit ain't gonna fly. Like, what? So people are scared that their mental health provider is gonna know their family. And the truth of the matter is they probably do. And to be fair, ethically speaking, LPCs can see people of the same family. We are allowed to do that. We don't use information from session to session. We're very good at compartmentalizing. But people are worried in small towns especially that news is going to travel from here, there, and everywhere. And they don't understand that ethically we can't do that. Legally, we could be fined a lot of money and lose our jobs. They're afraid that religiously their pastor is going to find out, but you know what? Their pastor probably already knows. Sometimes their pastor is involved in it. I'm just saying that has happened in my lifetime. Just leaving that there. Their employer might hear something. They're afraid that somebody in their family is going to think they're crazy, or they'll say they're crazy. But in all reality, in my experience, that's already happening. If everybody knows about it, then that's probably coming from the family, just being honest. If everybody already knows about it, it's coming from your family. Somebody in your family is screaming that you're a crazy bitch. Okay, maybe it was that bitch in high school. Who knows? Small town melodrama, 100%. Or, and I think this goes without saying because it encompasses a lot of this, they're afraid that somebody's going to use their pain against them later. Aren't we all afraid of these things? But here's the thing. We're banking on things that we don't know about in the future. We have no way of knowing that these things are going to happen in the future. We are just afraid of them. So we hold ourselves off from getting help because we're afraid of the uncertainty that these things might happen in the future. Not knowing whether they will or won't, or not recognizing that they are already happening anyway. So we're holding out until the depression is unbearable, until we try to commit suicide, until we're cutting ourselves on our legs and we are burning ourselves, until we're being beaten to within an inch of our lives by our spouse, until we have made a plan to kill ourselves, until panic attacks start looking like heart attacks, till we have stumbled into meth or heroin or fentanyl use, until our alcohol abuse has become drinking on the way to work, during work, at lunch, on the way home, during our showers, like looking out the window for the shadow people because we're sure they're there. and crawling through the carpet looking for the last little bit of meth crystal because we know it's there. Or locking ourselves in a closet to hide from the person that we are trying to get away from, or desperately trying to avoid killing ourselves when we could just ask for help because it's just right there, a text away. 988. That's a call away too. 988. I want to let that sink in for a little bit because that's reality. Our cognitive dissonance requires us to make a choice. We accept what is going on, or we allow new information in and choose to make a choice based on the new information. And that choice usually means that we make a move toward something different. If we accept to remain in the same space, then mental health stigma protects dysfunction. It protects abuse. It protects addiction. It protects suicidal tendencies. It protects untreated mental health. It protects the community from discomfort and allows it to continue to fall apart instead of coming together. Under the guise of silence, a family that looks on the outside like it's cohesive and functional, but no family is ultimately completely functional. Every family is dysfunctional. Show me a family that isn't, and I don't know, I'll buy you a drink. It protects the abuser. It keeps the addict locked in a cycle. It teaches children to ignore their emotions, and it keeps generational trauma locked in place instead of stopping it, which is the ultimate goal, to stop it. And a lot of this requires linguistics, and I am a huge fan of linguistics. I love linguistics. Linguistics is one of my favorite things because the way that we speak is the way that we think. It's the way that we perceive the world, right? So if I say something, that's how my brain is going to receive it. So if grandpa's war trauma was just hard, he had shell shock. The fuck does that mean, shell shock? He was shocked by the shells of war, the shells that came down during war, which soon became named post-traumatic stress disorder, but still, it was a name, shell shock. Interesting term, nonetheless, but it got us somewhere. Depression, she's just tired. That doesn't really lead us anywhere at all. What do you mean, she's just tired? That doesn't tell us anything other than she's tired. I could be tired because I worked all day. I'm tired. Somebody's addiction. Oh, they like to party. Okay, everybody likes to party sometimes. What kind of party? Are we having cake? Ice cream? Pizza? Is it a work party? Abuse. I didn't mean it like that. It was a song back in the 60s by the Crystals. He hit me and it felt like a kiss. No. No. Squirt bottle. No. Panic from a child. Anxiety from a child. They're just too sensitive. They cry, too sensitive, stop crying. You spank a child or they get in trouble. I'll give you something to cry about. No, they're already crying. They don't need something to cry about, obviously. They're already crying. Stop it. Quit. Stop. Survival mode in a woman becomes she's too difficult. Really? Aggressiveness, assertiveness in a woman becomes she's too controlling. Give me a break, guys, gals, y'all. Yins, stop. Nobody says incest, nobody says rape, nobody says coercive control, nobody says PTSD, nobody says abuse, nobody says PTSD, nobody says addiction, nobody says substance use disorder, nobody says suicidal ideation, nobody talks about suicide as the reason someone died. Nobody says that in an obituary. Are you too fucking ashamed to say your person killed themselves? Why? Instead, they say that's just how he is. You know how she gets. We don't bring that up. That happened a long time ago. You just need to let it go. But none of that shit goes away. It transforms. It moves. It's fluid. Here's the thing. I'm starting a series on stigma in mental health. And over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to have some people on here talking about it with me. And I'm going to be talking about it. And this is what. We're going to be talking about identifying emotions and why that's hard. Because people don't know how to talk about emotions because they're not taught. And I'm going to have a guest on that has written a book series and created his own universe with translation that can be used in therapy to describe how someone is feeling if they don't know how to really put it into words, because we don't always teach people how to describe what they're feeling because we don't talk about them, because we don't talk about emotions. or mental health. We're going to be talking about suicide across the course of this next episode series. I'll have a guest on to talk about suicidality and all that comes with that. That guest will probably be me. But in the meantime, I hope you take this first episode as an introduction into what we're really doing when we prevent ourselves from accepting our humanity and the human condition by remaining silent. What happens in the family doesn't just stay in the family. What happens in Vegas truly doesn't just stay in Vegas, y'all. It really doesn't. Everything catches up with us. What's done in the dark will be brought to the light. So I'd like to thank y'all for sitting with me a spell. Got on my soapbox a little bit tonight, but it is important that I did because people are out there suffering. I see it every day, and I work with it every day. And every day I try to change it a little bit more. Tune in next week as I interview a sir named Justin, who has devised a way for people who aren't certain how to express themselves and their emotions, a better way to be able to get that across to their therapist. And in between, y'all have a good one. This has been a Strummer's Mom production. Thanks, Frank.